Jack Bennet pressed his forehead against the cool window of the black Escalade as it navigated the congested streets of Manhattan. Rain pelted the tinted glass, distorting the city lights into blurry constellations. 22 hours of transcontinental travel had left him exhausted, yet somehow still wired. "A change of plans, Derek," Jack said, his voice hoarse from too many investor presentations. "Take me home instead of the office." His driver's eyes flickered to the rearview mirror. "You sure, Mr. Bennet? Your assistant mentioned you had meetings scheduled all afternoon." "The meetings can wait." Jack loosened his tie and checked his watch. An understated Patek Philippe that cost more than most people's cars. "I've been gone for 2 weeks. I need a shower and my own bed." "Yes, sir. ETA to your building is 14 minutes with this traffic." Jack nodded and returned to scrolling through the hundreds of emails that had accumulated during his flight from Tokyo. At 38, he had built Next-Tech Solutions from a dorm room startup to a multi-billion-dollar company, but the cost had been steep. 2 failed relationships, barely any friends outside the industry, and a persistent emptiness that no amount of success seemed to fill. The car pulled up to his building on the Upper East Side, a renovated pre-war with a discreet doorman and residents wealthy enough to value privacy above all else. "Thanks, Derek. Take the rest of the day off." "But sir, your calendar." "I'll handle it. Go see that son of yours play baseball." Derek's face brightened. "Thank you, Mr. Bennet." Jack grabbed his carry-on and nodded to the doorman as he entered the marble lobby. The private elevator whisked him to the penthouse floor, its quiet hum almost lulling him to sleep standing up. He'd purchased the apartment 3 years ago after Next-Tech's IPO, but had spent so little time there that it still felt more like a hotel suite than a home. When the elevator doors opened directly into his foyer, Jack was immediately struck by something unusual. Music was playing. Not the subdued classical playlist his home automation system was programmed to turn on when it detected his arrival, but something with a pulsing beat and Spanish lyrics. He set down his bag and moved cautiously into the main living area. The space was immaculate as always. Elena, his housekeeper, came 3 times a week to ensure the place remained pristine despite his near absence. But Elena shouldn't be here today. She came on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Today was Thursday. As Jack rounded the corner into the kitchen, he froze. Elena Rodriguez was dancing in his kitchen, a glass of what appeared to be his 30-year-old Macallan in one hand and a feather duster in the other. Her usual practical uniform had been replaced by jeans and a loose blouse, and her dark hair, normally pulled back in a severe bun, cascaded past her shoulders in waves. She spun around, eyes closed, singing along to the music, and promptly crashed into the marble island, spilling whiskey across the counter. "Mierda!" she cursed, reaching for a dish towel before looking up and locking eyes with Jack. For 3 seconds, they stared at each other in perfect, suspended silence. Then Elena screamed, "Mr. Bennet!" She frantically dabbed at the spilled whiskey. You're supposed to be in Tokyo until tomorrow." Jack couldn't help but notice her slight slur. "Clearly." "I can explain," she said, her face flushing a deep crimson. "I'm not. This isn't. Are you drunk in my apartment, Ms. Rodriguez?" Eleanor straightened her spine, dignity somehow reasserting itself despite the circumstances. "Technically, yes. But I can assure you this is not a regular occurrence." "I would hope not." Jack moved toward the kitchen, noticing how Elena clutched the edge of the counter. "Given that you're not even scheduled to be here today." Elena's eyes widened, and she covered her face with her hands. "Oh, God, it's Thursday, isn't it? I thought it was Friday. I've completely lost track of—" She trailed off, looking mortified. Jack should have been angry. He was paying her an exorbitant amount to maintain his home, not raid his liquor cabinet. But something about the situation, the absurdity of it, combined with his jet lag, made his lips twitch. "That's a $500 glass of whiskey you just spilled," he said, keeping his voice neutral. Elena's head snapped up. "500?" She looked at the bottle on the counter with horror. "I thought it was the regular kind, the one in the—" She made a vague gesture toward his bar cart. The Johnny Walker. Yes, that one. Elena pressed the heels of her hands against her eyes. I will pay for this, Mr. Bennett. I swear I will. You can take it from my salary, $20 a week or whatever works. Into that Jack couldn't contain his laugh. That would take you about a year. Then a year it is, she said with grim determination. Jack reached past her for the bottle, his arm briefly brushing against hers. He noticed her stiffen at the contact. Why don't you sit down before you fall down, he suggested, guiding her to one of the bar stools at the island. And tell me why you're day drinking in my apartment on your day off. Elena sank onto the stool, looking everywhere but at him. It's not what you think. I haven't decided what I think yet. She took a deep breath. Today was, my sister's graduation day from Columbia, summa cum laude. Pride briefly replaced embarrassment on her face. The ceremony was this morning. We had lunch to celebrate, and then Sophia left for the airport. She has an internship in California that starts Monday. And this explains why you're here, because I got home and our apartment was so empty, too quiet. Sophia and I have lived together since our parents died 10 years ago. I raised her, basically. Elena fidgeted with the dish towel. I don't know what came over me. I just couldn't bear to be there alone, so I thought I'd come here and catch up on some organizing I've been meaning to do for you. Your closet needs a complete overhaul, by the way. Jack leaned against the counter, studying her. In the 3 years she'd worked for him, they'd barely exchanged more than pleasantries. She came, she cleaned, she left. He'd run a background check before hiring her, standard protocol for anyone with access to his home. But he realized he knew virtually nothing about her as a person. So you came to work, decided to have a drink, and things escalated. Elena nodded miserably. I found the whiskey when I was organizing the bar cart. I thought, one small drink to celebrate Sophia. Then I started playing music to feel less alone, and she gestured helplessly. I'm so sorry, Mr. Bennett. This is completely unprofessional. I understand if you want to terminate my employment. Jack considered her for a moment. She'd always been efficient, thorough, and completely invisible, exactly what he wanted from household staff. He'd never seen her like this. Vulnerable, embarrassed, human. How did you get in? He asked suddenly. I changed the security codes before I left for Tokyo. Elena looked confused. Your assistant emailed them to me last week. She said you needed me to accept a package delivery while you were gone. Mental note, fire Angela, or at least have a serious conversation about security protocols. I think we both need coffee, Jack said finally, moving to the espresso machine, one of the few kitchen appliances he knew how to operate. Elena watched him cautiously. You're not firing me? Not today. The machine hummed to life. But I am curious about something. What's that? Where did you learn to appreciate 30-year-old Macallan? That's not exactly casual drinking. A shadow crossed Elena's face. My ex-husband was a collector. Before he decided collecting younger women was more interesting. Jack raised an eyebrow, but didn't comment. The espresso machine finished its cycle, and he placed a cup in front of her. Thank you, she murmured, wrapping her hands around the small cup. Jack made a second espresso for himself and sat on the stool beside her, maintaining a professional distance. So, your sister graduated from Columbia today. What was her major? Economics, with a minor in data science. Eleanor's expression softened. She's brilliant, got a full scholarship. And she's heading to California for an internship. Silicon Valley, some tech company I can't pronounce. They're paying her more for a summer internship than I make in 3 months. Jack felt an unexpected pang of interest. Which company? Knew something. Begins with an N. Next Tech Solutions? Eleanor snapped her fingers. That's it. How did you know? Jack stared at her, a surprised laugh escaping him. Ms. Rodriguez, that's my company. Elena's mouth fell open. But you're in finance or something, a hedge fund manager. No, I'm in tech. I founded Nextech 13 years ago. Oh my God. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. Sophia talks about the CEO all the time. Jack something. She has his book on her nightstand. Jack Bennett, he supplied. That would be me. Kill me now, Elena whispered, dropping her head to the counter. I've been drinking my boss's $500 whiskey. The universe is punishing me. Jack found himself unexpectedly charmed by her dramatics. If it helps, technically I'm not your boss. I just pay the service that employs you. Not helping, came her muffled reply. Look, it's fine, really. Jack finished his espresso. Everyone has bad days. Though I am curious why the sister of a Columbia economics graduate is working as a housekeeper. Eleanor lifted her head, a flash of something, defensiveness perhaps, crossing her features. Someone had to pay the bills while she was studying. Cleaning houses pays better than you might think, especially for high-end clients who value discretion. There was more to this story, Jack was certain, but he didn't press. Fair enough. An awkward silence fell between them, punctuated only by the fading notes of the music, still playing softly in the background. I should go, Eleanor said finally, standing up. Thank you for the coffee and for not firing me on the spot. I promise nothing like this will ever happen again. Wait! Jack wasn't sure why he stopped her. Maybe it was the jet lag, or the unexpected humanity of finding his always perfect housekeeper in such a state. When was the last time you ate? Eleanor frowned. We had lunch around noon. Why? Jack glanced at his watch. It was nearly 6. I'm starving, and I'm guessing the alcohol hit you harder on an empty stomach. Let me order some food before you leave. That's really not necessary, Mr. Bennett. Jack, he corrected, surprising himself, and I insist. Consider it self-interest. I don't want you passing out in the lobby and suing me for negligence. A reluctant smile tugged at Elena's lips. I wouldn't sue you. Small comfort. Jack pulled out his phone. What do you like? I was thinking Indian. I've never had Indian food, Elena admitted. Jack looked up in genuine shock. Never? How is that possible? You live in New York City. On a housekeeper's salary, she reminded him. Takeout is a luxury. Jack felt a twinge of something uncomfortable. Awareness of his privilege, perhaps. Well, then, we're definitely ordering Indian. Consider it educational. Eleanor hesitated, then gave a small nod. Okay. But after we eat, I'll clean up the mess I made and be out of your hair. Deal! As Jack placed their order, he caught Eleanor stealing glances at him when she thought he wasn't looking. There was something about her, a dignity despite her embarrassment, an intelligence behind her eyes, that intrigued him. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Jack Bennett was curious about someone who couldn't advance his business interests. By the time their food arrived, Elena had sobered up considerably. Jack spread the containers across the dining table, a space he'd never actually used for dining, and explained each dish. This is butter chicken, very approachable for beginners. This is saag paneer, spinach with cheese, and these are samosas, vegetable pastries. Elena cautiously tried each dish, her expressions shifting from uncertainty to surprise to pleasure. This is amazing, she said after tasting the butter chicken. Why have I never had this before? Cultural deprivation, Jack said, enjoying her reactions more than he'd expected. Try it with the naan. And as they ate, the initial awkwardness between them gradually dissolved. Jack found himself telling her about his trip to Tokyo, and Elena shared stories about her sister's college adventures. For a brief time, they weren't employer and employee, but just two people sharing a meal. So wait, Elena said, leaning forward, you're telling me you started your company in a dorm room? Just like in the movies. Jack smiled. It wasn't quite that glamorous, more like a lot of sleepless nights and ramen noodles. But essentially, yes. And now you're a millionaire who lives in a penthouse and drinks $500 whiskey. Elena shook her head. The American dream. Parts of it, maybe. Jack's smile faded slightly. The money and success came at a cost. No time for a personal life? Something like that. Jack was surprised by his own candor. What about you? All work and no play as well? Elena's expression closed off slightly. My focus has been Sophia for the past decade. getting her through school, making sure she had opportunities I didn't have. And now that she's graduated, Elena trailed off, looking genuinely lost. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. Jack recognized that expression, the sudden vertigo of reaching a long-sought goal and finding only empty space beyond it. He'd felt it himself after Nextech went public. Well, he said, breaking the moment, your next step might be finding a new job if my assistant has been sharing security codes without my permission. Elena's eyes widened in alarm. Please don't fire her because of me. She was only trying to help with the package delivery. Relax, Jack said. I'm not going to fire anyone, but I am going to make some changes to security protocols. Elena nodded, then glanced at her watch. It's getting late. I should really go. Of course. Jack stood, gathering the empty containers. Thank you for the unexpected company. It was nice, even though you found me drunk in your kitchen. Especially because of that, Jack said with a small smile. Made for a more interesting homecoming than usual. As Eleanor collected her things, Jack found himself wondering about her background. There was something incongruous about her, the way she carried herself, her vocabulary, her knowledge of fine whiskey. She didn't fit the profile of a career housekeeper. At the elevator, Eleanor turned to face him. Thank you for being understanding, Mr. Bennett. Jack, not many employers would have been, would. Not many housekeepers would care about their sister's education the way you clearly do, he replied. It says something about your character. A flush spread across Elena's cheeks. Good night, then. Good night, Elena. As the elevator doors closed between them, Jack was struck by an unusual feeling, disappointment that their evening was ending. He walked back to his empty penthouse, the space suddenly feeling larger and quieter than before. His phone buzzed with messages from his assistant, reminding him about tomorrow's meetings. The real world, intruding already. Jack sighed and headed for the shower, trying to shake the strange sense that something had shifted in his carefully ordered life. In the guest bathroom, he noticed Elena had left behind a small silver earring on the counter. He picked it up, turning the delicate object between his fingers. A reason to see her again, beyond their scheduled professional encounters. Jack set the earring on his nightstand before climbing into bed, thoughts of dark eyes and unexpected vulnerability following him into dreams. Jack spent the weekend distracted. Between executive calls and reviewing quarterly projections, his mind kept returning to the unexpected encounter with Elena. The small silver earring sat on his desk like a talisman, catching the light when he glanced its way. Monday morning arrived with Manhattan's typical cacophony. Jack stood by his floor-to-ceiling windows, coffee in hand, watching the city awaken. The sound of his private elevator arriving pulled him from his thoughts. Elena stepped into the penthouse precisely at 9, dressed in her usual uniform, black pants, white button-up shirt, hair pulled back in a professional bun. Nothing like the carefree woman who had danced in his kitchen. "Good morning, Mr. Bennett," she said formally, not quite meeting his eyes. "I didn't expect you to be home." "I'm working from here today," Jack replied, studying her composed facade. "And I thought we agreed on Jack." "That was before I sobered up completely," Elena said, a hint of humor breaking through her professional demeanor. "I've come to apologize properly and to start making payments for the whiskey." Jack waved dismissively. "Forget about the whiskey." "I can't do that," Elena insisted, removing an envelope from her bag. "It's $20, first installment." Jack stared at the envelope, torn between amusement and something deeper, respect for her dignity, perhaps. "If it makes you feel better." "It does." She placed the envelope on the counter and began unpacking her cleaning supplies. "You left this," Jack said, retrieving the earring from his pocket. Elena's hand flew to her ear. "I was looking everywhere for that. It was my mother's." Their fingers brushed as he handed it to her, and Jack noticed her slight intake of breath. "Thank you," she said softly. An awkward silence fell between them. "I received an email from your sister," Jack said finally. "Sofia Rodriguez. She's starting at Nextech today." Elena's eyes widened. "You remembered." I looked her up in our internship program. Her credentials are impressive. She's brilliant, Elena said, pride evident in her voice. Much smarter than I am. Jack tilted his head. Something tells me you're selling yourself short. Elena busied herself with organizing her cleaning cart. Will you be in my way all day, or do you have actual work to do? I have a video conference in 20 minutes, Jack said, amused by her deflection. But first, I wanted to ask you something. Yes? Have dinner with me this Friday. Elena froze. Excuse me? Dinner, Jack repeated. A proper restaurant. No alcohol required. Mr. Bennett. Jack, that's inappropriate. I work for you. No, technically you work for executive cleaning services. I'm just a client. A technicality, Elena said, frowning. Why would you want to have dinner with your housekeeper? Jack considered his answer carefully. Because I've lived in this apartment for 3 years, and last Thursday was the first time it felt like a home. Because you're the first person in ages who didn't want something from me. Because I'm curious about you. Curiosity is dangerous, Elena warned. I built a tech empire on curiosity. Elena studied him, conflict evident in her expression. This is a bad idea. Probably, Jack agreed. Is that a yes? After a long moment, Elena nodded. One dinner, as friends. Nothing more. Agreed. Jack fought to contain his unexpected elation. I'll make reservations at 11 Madison Park. I don't know what that is, but it sounds expensive. Only 3 Michelin stars, Jack said with a shrug. I'll pick you up at 7. I'll meet you there, Elena countered, and I'll pay for my own meal. Jack knew better than to argue. As you wish. He retreated to his home office, leaving Elena to her work. Throughout his video conference, he found himself distracted by the sounds of her moving through his apartment, the occasional soft humming, the gentle closing of cabinet doors. When Elena finished her work 3 hours later, she knocked on his office door. I'm heading out. Everything's done. Jack looked up from his computer. Thank you. See you Friday. A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. Friday. After she left, Jack leaned back in his chair, wondering what he was doing. Dating his housekeeper wasn't just inappropriate. It was a complication his streamlined life didn't need. His phone rang. Angela, his assistant. There's someone here to see you, Mr. Bennett. Says she's your girlfriend. Victoria Winters? Jack groaned. Victoria, his on-again, off-again relationship of convenience. Perfect timing. Send her up, he said, mentally preparing for the complication that had just walked back into his life, even as another complication had just walked out his door. Victoria swept into the penthouse 10 minutes later, all expensive perfume and calculated grace. Jack, darling, she purred, kissing him on both cheeks. Surprise! Victoria, Jack managed. What brings you by? The Petersons' charity gala is this Saturday. I assumed we'd go together. She moved around his space with familiar entitlement. Your apartment smells different. New cleaning service? Same service. Different products. Jack lied smoothly. About the gala... Don't tell me you're backing out, Victoria interrupted, her perfectly manicured hand resting on his arm. The board members will all be there. It's networking gold. And there it was. The reason Victoria kept circling back to him. Career advancement. Connection to his influence. I'll think about it, Jack said non-committally. Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly, but her smile remained fixed. Perfect. Now why don't we have lunch and catch up properly? As Victoria led him toward the elevator, Jack caught a glimpse of Elena's envelope on the counter. $20 toward a debt of honor. The contrast between the two women couldn't have been more stark. Jack found himself counting the days until Friday, even as he navigated Victoria's unexpected return and the complications it promised. Friday evening arrived with unseasonable rain. Jack stood inside 11 Madison Park, checking his watch for the 3rd time. 8:15. Elena was late. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Running late. Train delays. Sorry. At 8:30, Elena rushed through the doors, looking like she'd stepped out of a completely different world than the housekeeper he knew. Her hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and she wore a simple but elegant navy dress. "I'm so sorry," she said breathlessly. "The subway flooded near my station and—" She stopped, taking in the restaurant's opulence. "Oh," Jack smiled. "Worth the wait." The maitre d' led them to a private corner table. Elena moved through the space with unexpected grace, though her eyes betrayed her discomfort. "This is too much," she whispered after they were seated. "It's just dinner," Jack replied, though he understood her reaction. The restaurant's minimalist luxury represented a world far removed from most people's reality. "A dinner that probably cost more than my monthly rent," Elena muttered. "Then we should enjoy it properly." Jack handed her the menu. "Order whatever intrigues you." Elena studied the menu with the same focused concentration he'd seen her apply to organizing his bookshelves. "There are no prices." "That's intentional." "Of course it is," she sighed. "This was a mistake." Jack leaned forward. "Elena, look at me." When she met his eyes, he continued, "For tonight, let's just be two people getting to know each other. Not employer and employee, not millionaire and housekeeper. Just Jack and Elena." Something in her expression softened. "I can try." The sommelier approached, and Jack ordered wine without consulting the list. Elena raised an eyebrow. "Not drinking tonight?" he asked. "After last week's demonstration, I think I'll pace myself." Their conversation began tentatively, but warmed as the first course arrived. Jack found himself captivated by Elena's observations, insightful, often amusing, occasionally biting. She had a way of cutting through pretense that he found refreshing after years of corporate diplomacy. "So," Jack said as they began their main course, "tell me something I don't know about you." Elena considered the question. "I have a doctorate in economic history from NYU. Jack's fork paused midway to his mouth. "You're kidding." "Nope. Completed it 8 years ago, right before my parents died, and Sophia became my responsibility." "So you're Dr. Rodriguez?" "Technically," Eleanor shrugged, "though it doesn't come up much in housekeeping circles." "Why didn't you pursue academia?" A shadow crossed her face. "I was on track for tenure at Columbia when everything fell apart. My parents' accident, the medical bills, the funeral costs. Sophia was only 14. Someone had to be there for her, and adjunct teaching paid nothing. So you became a housekeeper." "It started as temporary," Elena explained. "The flexibility let me be home when Sophia needed me, and the pay was better than you'd think. Then 1 year turned into 2, and suddenly it had been 8 years. Jack studied her with new understanding. "That's why your sister's graduation affected you so deeply. It wasn't just her achievement, it was the end of your sacrifice." "Not a sacrifice," Elena corrected firmly. "A choice. I'd do it again in a heartbeat." "Still, it couldn't have been easy giving up your career," says the workaholic CEO. Elena's eyes sparkled with gentle challenge. "At least I have a reason for putting my life on hold. What's yours?" Jack blinked, surprised by her directness. "That's complicated." "I've got time," Elena said, settling back with her wine glass. "Unless you have a business emergency to attend to." "I left my phone with the coat check," Jack admitted. "Angela nearly had a heart attack." Elena laughed, a warm sound that seemed to brighten the space between them. Rebellious, the conversation flowed easily after that revelation. Jack found himself sharing things he rarely discussed. His parents' disappointment when he dropped out of Stanford, the betrayal by his first business partner, the loneliness of success. "People think money solves everything," he told her, "but it just changes the nature of your problems." "Poor little rich boy," Elena teased, though her eyes were kind. "But I understand. Isolation is isolation, regardless of thread count." As dessert arrived, Jack realized they'd been talking for nearly 3 hours. Elena noticed his surprise. "What?" "Nothing," he said. "I just can't remember the last time I had a conversation this long that wasn't about business." Elena smiled. "Me neither, though I should probably head home soon. Some of us work weekends." "Let me drive you," Jack offered. Not necessary. The subway's fine. It's pouring, and it's after 11. Please. After a moment's hesitation, Elena nodded. Okay, thank you. Outside, Jack's driver waited with an umbrella. Elena gave her address in Queens, then settled into the back seat beside Jack, careful to maintain space between them. Thank you for tonight, she said softly. It was unexpected. In a good way, I hope. Yes. Her gaze met his, honest and direct, but also complicated. The car slowed in front of a modest apartment building. Jack walked Elena to her door despite her protests about the rain. Under the building's awning, they faced each other awkwardly. I'd invite you up, Elena said, but there's nothing up there worth seeing. I'd like to see you again, Jack said simply. Not as friends. Eleanor's expression grew serious. Jack, I clean your toilet for a living. And I'd like to take the brilliant economic historian who happens to clean my toilet to dinner again. A small smile tugged at her lips. You're impossible. Is that a yes? This is a terrible idea, but I'm saying yes anyway. Jack grinned. I'll take it. He leaned forward, hesitating just before their lips met. Elena closed the distance, the kiss gentle and brief, but charged with possibility. Good night, Jack, she whispered. Good night, Dr. Rodriguez. As Jack returned to the car, his phone buzzed with notifications, 27 missed calls, 14 voicemails. One text from Victoria. Charity gala tomorrow. Pick me up at 7. Wear the Tom Ford. Jack closed his eyes, reality crashing back. He had 24 hours to figure out how to disentangle his convenient past from his suddenly complicated future. In Queens, Eleanor leaned against her apartment door, touching her fingers to her lips, wondering what kind of whirlwind she'd just invited into her carefully controlled life. The Peterson Charity Gala was in full swing when Jack arrived, alone. He'd spent 30 minutes on the phone with Victoria, explaining he wouldn't be her +1. The conversation had been unpleasant, but necessary. Across the glittering ballroom, Jack spotted familiar faces. Board members, investors, competitors. This was his natural habitat, yet tonight he felt strangely disconnected from it all. Bennett, there you are. Richard Peterson clapped him on the shoulder. I was beginning to think you weren't coming. Wouldn't miss it, Jack replied automatically. Where's Victoria? I thought you two were back together. We're not. Jack accepted a champagne flute from a passing waiter. How's the fundraising going? Peterson launched into details about the charity's educational initiatives. Jack nodded at appropriate intervals, his mind drifting to a different conversation about education, Elena describing her sister's journey through Colombia. Jack, are you even listening? Sorry, Richard. Jet lag. Well, wake up. The Westbrook team is here and they're looking to talk integration possibilities. Business, always business. Jack navigated the room with practiced ease, shaking hands, making small talk, discussing potential deals. Yet underneath, a persistent thought remained. Elena would see right through this artifice. Near midnight, exhausted by the performance, Jack stepped onto the terrace for air. His phone buzzed with a text message. Elena, just realized our dinner may complicate my job. Should I find a replacement cleaner for your apartment? Jack smiled at her practical approach. No, but maybe we should talk about this in person. Brunch tomorrow? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then, okay, noon. He suggested a small cafe in Brooklyn, neutral territory far from both their worlds. When Jack arrived the next day, Elena was already waiting, dressed casually in jeans and a simple blouse, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. She looked up from her book as he approached. Economic theory for light Sunday reading? He teased, noticing the academic text. Old habits. Elena marked her page. How was your charity event? Predictable. Jack sat across from her. How was your Saturday? 3 apartments, 2 condos, and a brownstone in Park Slope. She rubbed her wrist. The usual. Their conversation flowed easily through brunch, discussing everything from economic policies to favorite movies. Jack found himself laughing more than he had in months. About your text, he said finally. I don't want you to quit. It creates an uncomfortable power dynamic, Elena pointed out. Dating my employer. Then quit working for me specifically, not the service. Jack leaned forward. I can request a different cleaner without affecting your income. Elena considered this. That might work. But first I'd like to know if there's actually something here worth rearranging our lives for. Very pragmatic, Elena said, smiling. And how do you propose we determine that? The scientific method, repeated experimentation. Jack reached for her hand. Say, dinner Tuesday night? I have classes Tuesday nights. Jack raised an eyebrow. Classes? I've been taking night courses in financial technology, Elena admitted, planning for after Sophia. Wednesday then? Wednesday works. As they left the cafe, Jack impulsively pulled her close, kissing her properly this time. Elena responded with surprising intensity before gently pushing him away. Take it slow, CEO. I'm still processing. Sorry, Jack said, not looking sorry at all. I've built my career on recognizing good investments quickly. Elena rolled her eyes. Did you really just compare me to a stock option? Poor analogy, Jack conceded, but my point stands. They parted with tentative plans for Wednesday, both aware they were stepping into uncharted territory. Monday morning, Jack received an email from his building management. A pipe had burst in the apartment below his, causing water damage to his guest bathroom. Contractors would need access immediately. He authorized the repairs without thought, focused on quarterly projections. It wasn't until Tuesday afternoon that he remembered Elena was scheduled to clean his apartment the next day. Jack called the cleaning service to reschedule, only to learn Elena had already been reassigned at her request. A strange disappointment settled in his chest, followed by admiration for her initiative. Wednesday evening, Jack waited at an Italian restaurant in the village, nervously checking his watch. At 7:15, Elena rushed in. Sorry I'm late. The Columbia faculty meeting ran over. Jack blinked. Columbia faculty meeting? Elena smiled sheepishly. I got a call Monday. They're offering me a visiting professorship for next semester, economic history. That's wonderful. Jack reached for her hand. How did that happen? Apparently, my old department chair has been following Sophia's progress. When he learned I was her guardian, he tracked down my dissertation, said it was criminal I wasn't teaching. Elena's eyes shone with excitement. It's just one course to start, but it's a beginning, Jack finished for her. I'm happy for you. As they settled into dinner, Jack noticed something different about Elena, a new confidence, as if pieces of her identity were reassembling themselves. So, she said, I hear your bathroom flooded. Nothing serious. How did you know? Grapevine. Cleaning service gossip. Elena smirked. Apparently, the new girl assigned to your penthouse found something interesting. Jack frowned. What? A woman's earring on your nightstand. Silver. Vintage design. Elena's eyes danced with amusement. Scandalous. Ah. Jack felt heat rise to his face. I can explain that. No need. But you should know. Elena leaned forward conspiratorially. The cleaning staff thinks you're having an affair with your housekeeper. Jack choked on his water. And you find this funny? Hilarious, actually. Elena grinned. Especially since Consuela, your new cleaner, thinks I was fired for inappropriate relations with you. That's not good for your reputation. Jack, I clean houses for millionaires. My reputation isn't exactly a concern in those circles. Still, Jack frowned, I should clarify the situation. Don't you dare. Eleanor's expression grew serious. This thing between us. I'd like to see where it goes without an audience for now. Jack understood her caution. Our secret, then. The evening continued pleasantly until Jack's phone buzzed repeatedly, a system alert from Nextech. He apologized profusely, but Elena waved him off. Go, save your empire. I understand. Jack hesitated. Rain check? Definitely. Outside the restaurant, they shared a brief kiss before Jack hurried to his waiting car. Eleanor watched him go, conflicting emotions playing across her face. What neither noticed was Victoria Winters seated across the street, her expression darkening as she raised her phone to capture the moment. Jack stared at the tabloid headline on his tablet. Tech billionaire's secret affair with housekeeper. Below it, a grainy photo showed him kissing Elena outside the restaurant. Damage control options, sir? Angela hovered anxiously in his office doorway. It's not damage, Jack said firmly. It's my private life. The board has concerns about... The board can focus on our stock price. Jack pinched the bridge of his nose. Get me Elena's number. 5 unanswered calls later, Jack realized the obvious. Elena had seen the article too. In Queens, Elena sat on her small balcony, phone turned off, nursing a cup of tea. Her department chair had called that morning. Perhaps we should revisit the visiting professorship timing. Her phone contained 17 missed calls, 14 from Jack, 2 from Sophia, 1 from her ex-husband Richard, who hadn't contacted her in years. A knock at her door broke her reverie. She opened it to find Jack, disheveled and clearly worried. "You're not answering your phone," he said. "I'm processing." Elena stepped back to let him in. "Nice feature in the Post. Victoria's work, I assume?" Jack's surprise was evident. "How did you—" "Economic history includes studying power dynamics, Jack." Elena crossed her arms. "It wasn't hard to figure out." "I'm sorry," he said simply. "This isn't what I wanted." "What did you want? A discreet fling with the help? Something exotic to break the monotony? That's not fair." Jack's voice hardened. "You know that's not what this is." Elena deflated slightly. "You're right. I'm just—" She gestured helplessly. "Columbia rescinded their offer this morning. Because of the article. That's ridiculous. I'll call them." "Don't." Elena's tone was sharp. "That would only make it worse." They stood in awkward silence until Jack spoke. "Come work for me." "Excuse me?" "Next Tech. We need someone with economic history expertise for our financial literacy initiative." Elena laughed incredulously. "You're offering me a job now?" "It's not charity," Jack insisted. "Your qualifications are perfect. And it wouldn't look like you were hiring your mistress at all." Her sarcasm was cutting. "Elena, I spent 8 years rebuilding my life on my terms," she interrupted. "I won't be anyone's scandal or solution." Jack ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Then what do you want?" "Time," Elena sighed. "Space to figure this out." "And us?" "There's an us worth considering," she admitted softly, "but timing matters." Jack nodded, respecting her boundaries despite his instinct to fix everything immediately. "I understand." Before leaving, he handed her a business card. "My personal number. When you're ready to talk." After he left, Elena stared at the card, tracing its embossed letters with her fingertip. Her phone rang, Sophia this time. Elena answered reluctantly. "So," her sister began without preamble, "you're dating my boss's boss's boss. It's complicated. Is it true? The tabloids?" "Parts of it," Elena admitted, "not the sordid details." A pause, then, "He's kind of amazing, you know. At the company, everyone respects him." "Sophia. And he created this incredible internship program for first-generation college graduates. It's changing lives, Elena." "Are you seriously trying to sell me on dating your boss?" "I'm saying maybe he's worth the complication," Sophia replied. "You've put your life on hold for me long enough." After they hung up, Elena sat with her thoughts, weighing options, considering paths forward. Around midnight, she made a decision. At Nextech headquarters, Jack was working late when his private elevator announced an arrival. Elena stepped into his office, determination in her eyes. "Your security is terrible," she said. "I just told them I was delivering dinner." Jack stood. "I'm glad you came." "I'm not taking a job from you," Elena stated firmly. "And I'm not hiding from tabloids." "Okay. If, and it's a big if, we pursue this, it happens in the open. No secrets, no power plays." Jack nodded. "Agreed. And I find my own way professionally. Whatever you need." Elena studied him thoughtfully. "You're not what I expected, Jack Bennett. Is that good or bad?" "I'm still deciding." She moved closer. "But I'm willing to find out." Jack reached for her, relief evident in his expression. "That's all I'm asking for." Their kiss was different this time. A decision rather than an impulse, a beginning rather than a possibility. "Now what?" Eleanor whispered against his lips. "Now we figure it out together." The next morning, Jack's executive team received a simple memo. "Regarding recent tabloid speculation, yes, I am dating Elena Rodriguez. No, it is not a company matter. Yes, I expect this topic to be absent from all business discussions. JB." In Queens, Elena submitted applications to 3 universities, her CV updated to include her years of practical experience rather than hiding them. And in California, Victoria Winters received a courtesy call from Jack's lawyers regarding privacy laws and defamation, just as her phone buzzed with a more immediate concern. Her bank notifying her that her accounts showed unusual activity. All her investments in Nextech had been mysteriously liquidated overnight. 6 months later, Eleanor stood before a lecture hall at NYU, concluding her guest presentation on economic disparities in domestic labor markets. Students filed out, several lingering to ask questions. "Professor Rodriguez?" A young woman approached cautiously. "I'm in your Thursday seminar. I was wondering if you'd consider being my thesis advisor." Elena smiled, still adjusting to her new title. "Send me your proposal, and we'll discuss it." Outside the building, Jack waited, casual in jeans and a sweater, a far cry from his usual corporate armor. "How was it?" he asked, kissing her cheek. "Terrifying. Exhilarating." Elena linked her arm through his. "I forgot how much I love teaching." They walked through Washington Square Park, fallen leaves crunching beneath their feet. Elena's part-time teaching position had evolved into a tenure track offer for the following year. Jack had restructured Nextech's leadership to reduce his day-to-day involvement, creating space for what he called life outside the algorithm. "Sophia called," Elena said. "She's been promoted to junior project manager." "I had nothing to do with that," Jack insisted, "though I did hear she's exceptional." "Must run in the family," Elena teased. They stopped at their favorite cafe, the same one where they'd had brunch months ago, trying to navigate their complicated beginnings. "I've been thinking," Jack said as they settled at their table. "Dangerous. About that first night, when I found you in my kitchen." Elena groaned. "Must we revisit my most embarrassing moment?" "It was the luckiest moment of my life," Jack said seriously. "Finding you there changed everything. Finding me drunk on your expensive whiskey. Finding you human, real." Jack reached for her hand. "I was surrounded by people who wanted something from me. Then suddenly there you were, mortified to be caught, but too dignified to grovel. I was terrified you'd fire me," Elena admitted. "I was terrified you'd leave." Their conversation paused as the server brought their usual orders, evidence of how routine these meetings had become. "I have something for you," Jack said, sliding a small box across the table. Elena eyed it suspiciously. "It better not be what I think it is. We agreed to take things slow." "Just open it." Inside was a silver key. "What's this for?" "The penthouse." Jack looked uncharacteristically nervous. "Move in with me." Eleanor's expression grew serious. "Jack, before you say no, it's practical. Your lease is ending. The commute to NYU would be shorter, and I'm tired of waking up without you." "Very logical arguments, Mr. CEO." Elena turned the key over in her hand. "But what about the appearances, the gossip?" "Let them talk." Jack shrugged. "The tabloids lost interest months ago when we turned out to be boringly committed." Elena laughed. "Is that what we are? Boringly committed? I prefer surprisingly compatible." She studied him thoughtfully. "You know, when I was cleaning your apartment, I used to wonder about the man who lived there. So many rooms, such expensive things, but no photographs, no memories. And now I see you." Elena's voice softened. "The real you, not the penthouse or the company or the bank account, and I love what I see." She closed her fingers around the key. "Yes, I'll move in with you." Jack's smile was radiant. "Really? On one condition." "Name it. I get to organize your closet properly. Elena's eyes sparkled. It's been bothering me for 3 years. Jack laughed. Deal. That weekend, they began moving Elena's modest belongings into the penthouse. Jack was surprised by how few boxes she had. Mostly books, some family photos and clothes. Is this everything? He asked, carrying the last box from the truck. Everything that matters, Elena confirmed. As they unpacked, Jack watched Elena transform his sterile space with small touches. Colorful throw pillows, framed photographs, well-loved books. The penthouse gradually shifted from showroom to home. What are you smiling about? Elena asked, catching his expression. Just thinking about how differently things might have gone if my flight hadn't been early that day. Or if I hadn't raided your liquor cabinet. Thank God for good whiskey, Jack said solemnly. That evening, they stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. Jack's arms wrapped around Elena from behind. Happy, he murmured against her hair. Unexpectedly so. Elena leaned back into his embrace. Though I still think the whole scenario is ridiculous. The millionaire and the housekeeper. The CEO and the professor, Jack corrected. Though I preferred drunk in my kitchen, you. Elena elbowed him playfully. You're never letting me live that down, are you? Not a chance. Jack turned her to face him. It was the best mistake anyone ever made in my apartment. Second best, Elena countered, kissing him softly. Moving in might top it. Inside, Jack's phone rang. Another business emergency, another decision needed. For the first time in his career, he let it go to voicemail. Some priorities, he had finally learned, were worth rearranging a life for. In the kitchen, the scene of their first real encounter, Jack opened a bottle of the 30-year-old Macallan. Celebrating? Elena asked. Commemorating? Jack poured 2 small glasses. 2 unexpected beginnings. Elena smiled, raising her glass. And to coming home early.